This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. There are moments in my life of being a specialist in fertility where I go, maybe I am doing something good. So this particular situation was, this is a baby born 6 weeks ago now after a long IVF journey. So this baby happened on the 13th embryo transfer. So this couple set out on their journey some 5 years ago. They were treated at another clinic in Sydney for a couple of cycles and didn't do well, came to me, and then subsequent to that had another 11 cycles before we got to this baby. The initial cycles, the embryos seemed good. There were some difficulties with the transfer. So she had investigations to check the uterus and the cervical canal. We resolved those. We then moved on to looking at other causes why it might not happen. We looked for immunological issues, where the embryo may be being rejected by the mother. We looked at the sperm and found that there was nothing unusual there. And then we moved on to look at blood clotting tendencies. If you have an increased tendency towards making blood clots, there is some evidence, not great, but some evidence that this can cause miscarriage, and extrapolating that back, it may also cause implantation failure. So we did all of those tests, and as we do in the majority of cases, we found nothing. So we then decided that perhaps the embryos were not genetically normal, and therefore, which is the commonest reason for IVF failure and for miscarriage, is that the embryo that has an abnormal number of chromosomes. We tested the next batch of embryos, and out of that batch, we found 46 chromosomes. At that point, we didn't know the sex because we're not allowed to, but we do actually, the laboratory does actually know the sex of them, but we're not allowed to tell you before we do the transfer. So we put back the first of those, and lo and behold, here is a baby, an Emmanuel, his name is. And needless to say, the parents are over the moon. But what it shows is that persistence and in that desire to have a baby can bring results, even after failure, after failure, after failure. I suppose this couple have now invested something in the order of $50,000 to get this baby, with all the number of cycles they've had. Even though Medicare is probably subsidized at 50%, it's still been a very expensive journey over a period of time. But we now have the result. And they still have one embryo in the freezer, and they're even planning to come back in 6 months' time to have that one put back so that they can have another sibling for this boy. Don't give up. If you've got the resources, both financial and psychological, because that's, to me, is the hardest part. Going through a cycle, having a beautiful embryo, having it put back, and not be pregnant. Picking yourself up from that and moving on to the next cycle is a hard journey. But what we're there to try and help you through that. And we know, based on a lot of data, that cumulatively, in other words, if you add together all the cycles and all the pregnancies, if you're under 38 and you persist, you've got more than an 85% chance of ending up with a baby. Unfortunately, once you get over 40, that drops away to about 30%. So the majority of women who start the IVF journey over the age of 40 are not going to end up with a baby. That's the realistic statistic. But a lot do. And therefore, we do try, and we do have many pregnancies in that age group.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website, www.theivfjourney.com, and select IVF Journey Podcast from the navigation menu.